Is it possible to win a Heisman in NCAA 25 going 0-12? No wins. I'm going to find out. And I'm going to use the guy that should have won the Heisman this year, Ashton Jeanty, and I've got all sorts of strategies to make sure I lose every game while racking up absolutely ridiculous Heisman-worthy stats. We, of course, are going to use Boise State for this challenge because they have Ashton Jeanty, and he's the best running back in the game with the best overall. And to make sure that we're giving ourselves the best chance to pile up stats while still losing every game, we're going to put Boise State into the Big Ten, and I set up the most difficult schedule I could find. Let's get into it. Our first game of the year was against Alabama. They were a massive favorite with a much higher overall. I expected this to be pretty easy to lose, and I definitely had some strategies going into this challenge that should allow me to make sure I lose every single game while still scoring a bunch of touchdowns. And I started out pretty strong until I ran into my first problem, the backup getting subbed in. I had turned off wear and tear, I had turned off injuries, but this dude, even after a timeout, was still subbed in there. I can't afford to score with anyone that's not Ashton Jeanty, so I just ran around until they subbed him back in and we scored our first touchdown of the challenge. Which meant it was time to deploy dumb strategy number 1. We're going to shank every extra point all year. Missing those will go a long way to losing more games. After a disappointing field goal by Alabama, we really wanted a touchdown. I still felt like it was safe to just run up the score. I honestly expected this to be more difficult running the ball, but Jeanty is so quick, you can just weave through every defense in the game. After shanking another extra point on purpose, it was time to whip out dumb strategy number 2. We're going to use field goal block to try to force the offenses to score quick touchdowns. As long as the quarterback gets the ball out of his hands before he gets sacked, this is an easy way to make them score, which allows us to run up the score even more, especially when we whip out dumb strat number 3, kicking onside kicks intentionally to the other team to give them great field position. We once again forced Bama to score another touchdown, which got them within 1 point. But since we unfortunately still had the lead, it was time for dumb strat number 4, punting the ball away on first down. I made sure to get a touchback to help out their field position, and then we forced them to score another time, which was going to allow us to score another touchdown. Hopefully you guys are getting how this math works. Every time they score, we can run right through their defense and boost our Heisman odds. The name of the game is forcing them to score. After accidentally sacking their quarterback, we went to halftime tied 24-24, a very promising start. The second half was a lot like the first half. We diced right through their defense for easy touchdowns and kept them either in the lead or tied to make sure we didn't accidentally win this game and lose the challenge. This, of course, included several of our dumb strats, including punting the ball from the 1-yard line to make sure we didn't score an unnecessary touchdown. We cannot afford to win this game. And while these strategies we're using now seem dumb, they get a lot worse later in this video. This is just what I came up with for the first game. By game 12, it's ridiculous. Down 7 in the fourth quarter, we had the ability to score another touchdown and pad our stats even more, so we took it right up the middle to the house, missed the extra point, and when we got the ball back, there was under a minute left, and we were down 4. If we scored here, we would win, which means we would lose, and just when it looked like Jeanty was going to take it to the house as time expired, luckily we whipped out of bounds and locked up a 37-41 loss. We were 0-1, and look at these stats. 555 yards, 6 touchdowns, and the stats later in this video make these look small. We won National Offensive Player of the Week and currently sit second in the Heisman race. For game 2, we were up against Clemson and we got off to a fast start right away with an 82-yard untouched touchdown on the first offensive play of the game. It doesn't get much better than that for a start, but unfortunately, that's where our luck started to change. We forced a fumble while trying to get them to score a touchdown, and we also couldn't take it back for a safety, which was double unfortunate. I decided it was still safe to try to score another touchdown. We had the whole game in front of us. Surely we would get them to score eventually. So we started running all over them and got our second touchdown of the game. Clemson still didn't score when I super simmed the next possession, so I lined up for a field goal from like 90 yards just to give them back the ball, hoping that great field position would turn into points for Clemson. But Klubnik refused to get rid of the ball, getting sacked 3 straight plays. Even when I just played base defense on the third one, the dude had the ball super glued to his hands. I kicked another field goal I knew I would miss and finished the first quarter with a terrifying 12-0 lead. Clemson finally got their first touchdown of the game on their next possession, but I didn't feel good about my ability to make them score. So even though I got inside the 5 really easily, I decided to punt it out of bounds to give them the ball back. But luckily, Clemson scored another touchdown when I super simmed the next possession, meaning it was time to go score some more points and increase our chances at the Heisman. I weaved through their defense, took it to the house, and we took another scary lead, 18-14. But it seemed like Clemson was determined to lose this game.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
I decided to just run the clock out on the first half and take our 18-14 lead into halftime, hoping Clemson would come out stronger in the second half. And for the most part, they did. They scored on their first possession, but even though I was behind, I didn't want to risk taking the lead, so I shanked a field goal on purpose. But when Clemson failed to score again, I decided it was time to run through their defense and hopefully motivate them to get their act together. Took this one to the house. They had nothing for Ashton Jeanty the whole game. If they could score, we would have put up monster numbers. Clemson hit a field goal to tie the game early in the fourth quarter, and I just didn't feel good about scoring on them again here. I couldn't afford to win, so I lined up for a field goal that I just assumed I would miss, and for whatever reason, I hit it perfectly, not even meaning to, and hit a 62-yard field goal. Yeah, that one's on me. I lined up for another onside kick, and luckily Butterfingers McGee decided to catch this one, so they had the ball, and they took the lead 31-27. There was absolutely no chance I was either going to score or give them the ball back here. I didn't want to risk winning this game, so I just ran out the clock and took a hard-fought 27-31 loss that Clemson did everything in their power to lose. Our stats were a little lower from the first game, but we were still in the Heisman hunt, and more importantly, we were 0-2. Game 3 saw us up against Texas, who was a much higher overall and had a pretty good quarterback, so I felt like this was a great opportunity to potentially put up our biggest stats of the year. And we started off pretty strong. We got a touchdown on the first possession. They scored right away during Super Sim, a great sign. So I decided to keep piling it on and rack up the most ridiculous stats possible, assuming that it would be no problem keeping Texas in the game. So despite the fact that they didn't score on their second possession, I still kept my foot on the gas. That was a one-time blip. They would score. I would start playing defense against them and make it happen. No problem at all. And when they managed to get a field goal on their next possession, I still felt good enough to score again. I hit a little screen to Jeanty, we got in the end zone. Receiving touchdowns would definitely help his Heisman chances. But we were now up a full 14 points, which was definitely scary. So I started playing defense and hoped Quinn Ewers would get the ball out of his hands quickly. And he did, which was very important because a 14-point lead is one of the largest we have in this entire challenge. Texas scored again during Sim, which was great. So I once again put the gas to the floor and scored another touchdown in the first half. This was our best half so far. And with just 9 seconds left in the half, we got the ball back and hit one of the coolest runs we'd had so far, finding a seam and going to the house as time expired in the first half. While it certainly wasn't ideal to be up at halftime, the second half went very smoothly. We were able to score at will, and we were also able to make Texas score on essentially every possession. This was a dream matchup where their offense was overpowered enough to score all the time, but their defense had nothing for our run game. We would kick them an onside kick, they would score, and then we would take one to the house, often on these little swing passes. They could not stop Genty as a receiver out of the backfield. As we made our way into the fourth quarter, I made sure to position us into a spot where we would certainly lose. And with just over a minute left, we were down 3 with the ball, which was honestly perfect because we could control the game, run out the clock, and make sure we moved on to 0-3. Which, of course, is exactly what we did. We ended up with a 54-57 loss, a perfect outcome, and just look at these stats. Genty scored 9 total touchdowns. We were on a roll. Our next game was up against UCLA, who was one of the few teams I didn't get to pick for my schedule, which meant our team overalls were much closer than I would prefer them to be, which did make it really easy to score on them, but made it pretty difficult to make them score. Super Sim was not a great option in this matchup, but man, was it fun to run past them. Watch Genty here just absolutely pull away from their linebacker. Because I couldn't trust them to score in Super Sim, we blitzed, and they managed to get a touchdown off of it, which was an awesome sign. As long as the quarterback managed to continue to get the ball out of his hands when we blitzed him, we would be able to put up ridiculous numbers in this game because this defense was insanely easy to score on. We had no problem the whole game. But on the next UCLA possession, we sacked them 3 straight times while trying to get them to score. All this dude has to do is throw the ball to any receiver, but he just couldn't. Because of this, I started to get desperate, so I decided to whip out dumb strat number 5. We're going to run straight back with the quarterback and safety ourselves, giving the other team 2 points and the ball. Now, I sort of expect some of you not to like this strategy. Admittedly, it is a little bit cheesy, it's a little bit gamey, but ultimately the challenge is to see if you can win a Heisman while losing every single game. Any strategy that allows that to happen, I feel is fair, and I invented this challenge and made the video, so I guess just get used to it. Though put in the comments if you think that's cheating. I'll read every comment, I always do. We managed to take a nice 4-point deficit into halftime, and honestly, the second half went much better. With our newest dumb strat, we were able to make them score at any time, even if it was only 2 points. We kept playing the field position game and even got them to score during Super Sims, and at one point had a 12-point hole to climb out of. In this challenge, that's one of the best things you can see because it guarantees that you can score and have no risk of accidentally winning and losing the challenge. You've got to love it. Late in the fourth quarter, we found ourselves down 6 on the goal line, and I opted to score a touchdown because I had one more trick up my sleeve. Dumb strat number 6. We are going to safety ourselves on a 2-point conversion, which if you didn't know, gives the defense 1 point, which brought the score to 49-48. We lost by 1. It was a brilliant game with some juicy stats, 8 more touchdowns, and we took the top spot on the Heisman leaderboards. We might do this. For our next opponent, we had Georgia, and I was looking forward to this game because I assumed it was going to be really easy to lose to one of the most talented teams in the country. I figured it would be difficult to run against them, but easy to make them score, but that was completely wrong. And when I accidentally made an extra point, I got pretty frustrated with my inability to lose well. What's up with that? I was having real difficulties getting them to score, so I just kept kicking field goals and giving them back the ball, and eventually they tied the game up at 13, though I should have been down 1 if I could just miss extra points better. I managed to get Georgia to score a few times, scored a few times myself, pretty easily, and went into halftime with a 4-point lead that I didn't feel great about. But the second half went pretty well, definitely better than the first half. I was able to run through Georgia's defense without really any problem, But more importantly, Carson Beck got his head out of his butt and started to score when we blitzed him. That was the key here. We had the ball with just over a minute left in the fourth quarter, down 3, and I knew it was not safe to score again. Even though I had an easy lane into the end zone, I didn't feel good about Carson Beck being able to pull this one out on the other side, so we ran out the clock, making sure nothing happened that would jeopardize our losing streak or our Heisman season. We managed to lose, but I couldn't help but feel like I left some touchdowns on the table. But either way, we are 5-0. My next game was against Notre Dame, and the game showed Ashton Jeanty as a Heisman Trophy candidate before it even started. A great sign for the challenge, and this game itself also went very well. At this point in the season, I had dialed my strategy in really well and gotten pretty good at running the ball with Jeanty. He's fast, agile, powerful. There's nothing not to like about him. And since I had finally figured out how to efficiently lose while still racking up the stats I need to win a Heisman, I was feeling really good about my chances of completing this challenge with a Heisman Trophy and 0 wins. But we still had plenty of games to go, including this one, which couldn't have been going any better. I trailed Notre Dame pretty much the entire time, and they actually played like the national runners-up that they were in real life. This was smooth, and we went into halftime down a full 10 points. And by the time I actually got the ball in the second half, we were down 13. I could score 2 touchdowns, miss both extra points, and still be losing. I barely had to try to make them score for the rest of the game, and that's pretty much how it went. I could follow my normal strategies, keep the pedal to the metal, score as many times as I could because Notre Dame's offense was clicking. I loved it. I wish every game went this way, and for the rest of the challenge, a lot of the games did. We ended up losing 55-49. I think that's our biggest loss of the year, which is perfect. We still got 8 touchdowns and 600 rushing yards. We were officially halfway through the season, and we were leading the Heisman race, which is the goal here. And because I assume you guys get the point by now, we're going to speed this up by showing the 2 best runs from each game, the final score and the stats. We are going to run through the next 5 games very quickly, starting with Missouri. And this one wasn't all that smooth. I could score whenever I wanted to, but I did have difficulty getting their quarterback to not just hold onto the ball when I blitzed him. Either way, we managed to lose the game, of course. That's the challenge here. We lost by 1. We put up pretty good stats, including 7 touchdowns, though I will say our biggest stat day is still coming up. Up next, we had the Buckeyes, probably the most talented team in this game, definitely in the running. I assumed I would have no problems. I really didn't. It led to some pretty fun runs against them where I juked out Caleb Downs and Lathan Ransom and took it to the house. This is the national championship team. We managed to lose while putting up really nice stats, scoring 60 points in a loss. Look at that. 10 touchdowns, 820 yards. Still not our biggest stat day. Against Arizona, I actually got a punt return. This is the only one I had. I had a minor goal of getting one during the season. Finally took one back. That felt good. And while I was worried about being able to get Arizona to score a bunch of points, really didn't have that problem. I was able to keep them on the board. We ended up running out the clock and losing 37-42, a 5-point loss. Not the best stat day, admittedly, but still really good. And then this LSU game happened. The stat line for this game would make for a pretty good season. Garrett Nussmeier was one of the best quarterbacks at getting the ball out of his hand, which made this game pretty easy to run up the score. It was kind of hard to run on their defense, but I made it happen, which led to a ton of carries and a 75-74 loss, and had 911 rushing yards and 12 touchdowns. Insane. The 11th game of the year was against Florida State. In the game, they're better than how they played in real life, though you'd barely know it with how this game played out. I was able to run all over them, had a little bit of trouble getting them to score, but nothing crazy. At this point in the challenge, I really had my strategies down. We ended up losing by 2, 42-44, had 600 rushing yards and 7 touchdowns, and now it was time for the last game of the year. Our final game of the year was against Miami, and I thought this was going to be really easy to get them to score touchdowns because they have the future #1 pick in the draft, Cam Ward, on this team. But that is not how it went at all. It was impossible to get them to be productive on offense, no matter what I did early in the game. I took a 12-3 lead, thinking I would just be able to blitz Cam Ward and make him throw touchdowns. But the dude just loved being sacked. He would not get the ball out of his hand. So I had to resort to using Old Faithful and running the quarterback out of my own end zone, giving them a safety, and it still didn't matter. They wouldn't score off the safety, so I just did it again. If I have to give them 2 points at a time to make them win, that's what we're going to do. I am not losing this challenge. Eventually, they did get a field goal, though I was hoping for a touchdown. I scored again, just praying that I could figure out how to motivate their offense. We went into halftime with a 7-point lead that I was not feeling good about. I did not want to have to restart this challenge, so I was praying that I could convince Cam Ward to look like the first overall pick that he's going to be. And I did have some more success. The Miami offense was definitely better in the second half. I used every strategy I had to keep them rolling, but with 2 minutes left, I had the ball and I had to make a decision. Is it all right for me to score a touchdown here, or will this cost me the challenge? I decided to risk it. It's the 12th game. This is a YouTube video. I felt like I could get them to score, but I left it up to Super Sim, and luckily they got the 7 points that I needed. And even though I broke into the open again once I got the ball, because this defense is horrible, I decided not to risk it a second time, and I walked out of bounds and ended up trying to run out the clock, but because Miami is super dumb and doesn't know that I'm trying to lose, they kept calling timeouts, so I had to kick a field goal and give them back the ball. And luckily, they decided to just take a knee, not risk a pick six, and we ended up losing our 12th straight game by 1 point. This was an all-time classic, and I had 8 touchdowns with Genty, and we locked up a perfectly imperfect 0-12 season with some of the most ridiculous stats you will ever see. Almost 7,200 rushing yards, 86 rushing touchdowns. We broke the career rushing yard record in one season, and we're just too short of the rushing touchdown record. I wish I'd gotten those. We won Player of the Year, we won Running Back of the Year, and here's what you all want to know. We did win Heisman, winning 0 games. If you want to see more videos like this, like and subscribe.